Grüße, meine Damen und Herren, meine Sternsaat, Sternsamen und alle Kinder, die zusammenkommen. Ich habe euch etwas mitgebracht. Aufgepasst. So, for those who want to study psychic phenomenon, here's an example. China's super psychics. I think it's very expensive. It's banned in China. The guy had to leave China for what he wrote, where they're testing actually psychic kids and their capacity in like psychic schools. You can see here in class lecturing and kids pulling up cards, triangle, square, circle, and what's the rate of, you know, them picking up stuff. Here again you see some kids sitting in the lab where experiments actually were done to test the psychic capacity of what's the focus, ESP development, and the proof of that it is so. Reported cases in that book, it's written by Paul Dong and Thomas E. Raphael, forward by Karen S. Kramer, PhD. So you have competent people here, and it makes my heart beat harmoniously that we are actually winning with what we're bringing forth, where people had things to say. Also by Charles Leadbeater and Annie Besant, The Occult Chemistry Illustrated Edition, where they used clairvoyance to channel the atomic structure of, for example, silicon, germanium, iridium, phosphorus, indium, and they made their little squiggles. Let me see if this camera picks that up. And then these squiggles would be compared to under a microscope to see is that really what they're seeing. So vanadium, nitrogen, niobium, and they were not giving the names of the material, so they were tested. And then they compared the results with the squiggles and the connector points, electrons, photons, atoms, atomic structure. And look here, these clairvoyants had the capacity, sometimes even down to the atomic weight, to channel into the ether what material was in front of them. And so this is a scientific proof and a study which the world is not interested in, of course. This is because of our slow psyche, which is okay. Resistance is normal when higher intelligence comes to lower developed planetary systems. Nothing new, you've seen it in movies. Earth is on its way, people are getting it, and I'm very proud to now elaborate on how to effectively debunk. So I've written down a few, keynotes for me to not lose my plot here. One guy here, Dr. Luc Montagnier, a very famous guy, Google it, Nobel Peace Prize winner. He is one of the pioneers that found the retrovirus of what we call HIV, namely AIDS. And what he has found and why after that he is not being actually looked at and recognized for his findings. But before we go to that, I'll have to give you something about farmers' knowledge, okay? I can say here's the problem we have with debunkers. First off, a joke, how do you debunk a debunker? Toss them out of bed. Because mentally they seem to be asleep. So I spoke to a physicist about debunking, discernment and skepticism. And old crusty guy, quantum physicist, bitter dude, but he said something very profound to me. He said, if you have an idea, and these ideas sound all so fantastic, if you talk a long time about theoretical concept, it remains a theoretical concept that you lean on. So of course, after a while, if you have no proof of concept, and you can't bring forth evidence that it is so, you'll be subject to ridicule, and debunkers love that. Here's what he said. Here's my problem with debunkers, and I'd like to resonate. He said, debunkers themselves that are not famous, okay, and let me transcribe that to networks. Let's say they have 500 subscribers, videos on average have 100 views, have no experience, they're not in the field, I call them the vulture types, that jump on somebody that is famous and in the field, and let's say somebody has done 50 years of work in the field studying the into ufology, and there's a case with that person. That's what they jump on. Yeah, they're parasites. They're not contributing, they're not constructive, they're destructive, and they're not intelligent, nor have they written or read enough books to even be in a debate to begin with. You can't take those people serious, okay? These are the vulture types. You never see a debunker that has, let's say, 500,000 subscribers. His business is fine, everything works, attacking other people, trying to debunk. So the debunking stops when you're successful. That's also the psychology. Debunkers always behave like these free radicals. Either they can't attain what they call the magic, or they hate spiritual people, or they are at war with this. They pick a label that they have to be at war with in order to make a point. Because there seems to be no peace, or there's a personal problem or personal vendetta systems going on. And he said, what I could respect in a debunker, and then I go into the storylines where these debunkers utterly fail, sorry to say, is that debunkers cannot bring proof of concepts that they can do it better, nor do they have the knowledge in the field. So if a debunker doesn't know anything about quantum physics, then you shouldn't be talking or uttering anything. Here's the thing is, I don't know anything about quantum physics, but I can base my findings on science in quantum physics that have workable aspects or projects and stuff. So I made a challenge with a guy who said, yeah, you can't agitate fuel on the atomic structure with photons. You know, what you read with the Russians, that can be hearsay. I mean, there's been scientists like Kozyrev and many others. You just have to study the field. I read a lot of books, and I continue to read a lot of science books, and then allow myself to combine the science to see, well, what does it do? Like real simple I'm getting out of the formula. The formula is for science to document after I'm successful. How I do it usually, formula-based, I could never develop anything. In math, I sucked straight F when I was like what you would call high school. German school system is a much higher level, because we have our system is like college and then university level. If you have that complete, then you can begin with the regular high school knowledge. In our school system, you'd have to start with our school system from scratch, and it's not like that your grades could be 50% and you make it. You have to be at least around like 80% in even the make class. Same with the driver's license. For example, in the US, you pay $20, you read a book, you have, I don't know, 100 questions, and then in 2 weeks you get your driver's license. In Germany, you need to study that 7 months. You need to have hundreds and hundreds of hours, and if you have less than 82%, you are not making the test, you're not getting your license, and the driver's license is $3,000. So in Germany, from in the intellectual aspect here, is for me to get my degrees, there is a lot of work and study necessary to get my degrees. To break it down for my scientific mind is I'm electrical engineering, you know. I have a degree in journalism, broadcast, and sound engineering. And I have a metaphysics degree in, Doctor of Metaphysics. So, but this requires studies and going to school, which is I did for a long time. The rap entertainment was a side thing that I did, and I worked 2 jobs actually to fund my rap career, because nobody would fund hip hop in my time. I'm 50, so it's not like I just woke up and I have all these downloads. and then all of a sudden here I am with knowledge and no applications. So let's go with my cue point, farmer's knowledge, with what the problem with debunking is. Let's say you have a garden and you come to the market and your potatoes are this big, and it's evident and people go shopping. This was proof of concept, and people buy your potatoes. It could be pumpkins, it could be I don't know, eggplant, whatever it is that you're growing. Everybody's happy and you have a lush garden and everything is exponentially bigger than all the other gardens. That makes you a specialist because you have to develop something that makes them grow bigger. So the debunker hears about you or watches a video or demonstration and has a problem to bitch about your garden and how you show your produce. So what I miss with a debunker is that if you cannot make potatoes the same size, and you do not have a garden to begin with, and you're not in the field, you can't criticize. I would say by law you can have an opinion, and you can say that you're my little rinky-dink potatoes that I have a rotten taste better. You're entitled to your opinion. If the market decides to go there, that's where the market goes. Yes, of course, we have the industry influencing the people into buying stuff that they don't need. We're leaving that now, where people are with YouTube making up their own mind and controlling their own money and their currency, and realizing, thinking for themselves what to invest in. Where 4-year-old said in Mary Rodwell's The New Human movie, he said, forget everything that you have learned in the educational system. Yeah, and I say do that not permanently, do that for a couple of minutes and come to your own conclusions and your own thoughts, and your IQ shall rise because you're beginning to actually think for yourself, not mimicking, regurgitated, mimicked, copy paste what others have done because they make money. It's survival, so we do what they do. If they survive that way, I want to survive that way. We're now in a way where you have to individuate your thought, individual, dualism in division. So in order to come back to the oneness, farmer's knowledge, my grandma would say, don't bitch about what he's selling or what the bakery is selling or what farmer produces what. Take better care of your cows, produce better milk or whatever it is, and have acres, be in the field, come to the market and start selling. If you have nothing to sell in the market, or you don't have considerable successful business, you're wasting other people's time because nobody needs to hear that. We can all agree on that. So if somebody wants to debunk that free energy and electric motors or magnetic motors are all hoax, is yes, I say, point out, have an opinion. But if you cannot, and that is constructive criticism, bring to the table an engine that is self-running, and if it's 400 years, which I believe magnetic motors have like 400 or 500 years, and turn it on and show and prove that you can do it better. If you can't, who are you to criticize? Before we go to Dr. Luc Montagnier, to show you where our consciousness is, what was I going with this? Dr. Luc Montagnier, and yeah, the Wright brothers. I'm leaning here on David Wilcock has said that, but this is nothing new. I've heard this and reading the storyline on biography of inventors, how hard they had it, and Tesla, how so many people say Tesla debunked, Einstein debunked. Even to have the audacity to give your video such a title is like, it's like saying Zen monk debunked, like a dude that studied in the monastery for 60 years, and they can measure his brain waves, phenomenal features, phenomenal focus, and then here comes the new agey, sits there, this is where I come in. Now listen, and the gestures and all that stuff, man, you look ridiculous when somebody has studied 60 years and you come in there with a channel that's a year old or 5 minutes with a network that has, I don't know, 500 people or less, or videos 100 views. I would say, who are you? You're really it's very amusing. So I would go to the person that had studied 60 years and is in the field and listen to what they have to say. And what I would do, I'm not telling anybody what to do, I sit my ass down, I shut up, because I know nothing. Okay? I don't know anything. I'm here to learn. I'm a student forever of life. So those students that are witty become coaches, and those coaches get followings. So not guru, okay? You're your own guru, you're your own master. You make your own decisions to what I'm in resonance with and what I'm not in resonance with. If people, I heard, want to make it a conspiracy theory how many times somebody touches their nose or raises their eyebrow, or oh my God, Illuminati symbols. This is all, you're lost in non-essential way of thinking, not understanding how to plant seeds in your garden and make food grow and make sure that it's not rotten, and what you bring to the farmer's market makes sense, people buy, your business is transparent, your produce is well, so you can like read my transcripts for my school, you know, from 0 to 4.0, my grades were 3.25 average, okay? Out of 15 classes that I took, 12 straight A. That is evident of what you do, and transcripts that you'll see, and people that can see what your work is and where your intelligence is, and how you're invested in observing that. Also, you hear that by my speech and articulation. I did voiceovers for many years for commercials. I know the psychology of how to speak, how to address and be clearly. And then people go like, oh, that gives you power to manipulate. Well, if you want to run around and manipulate for self-serving gains and not going anywhere, that is anybody's choice. I want to do it for the global collective, for everybody to come together and not say we're a family, more seeking people that are on point. And I'm not even saying who's the most spiritualist, because people have a problem with being spiritual is nothing but a label. I will take that away and say it's not about how spiritual you are and how kumbaya and namaste and you're wearing a robe and you have a bindi here, you have your yoga pants, your yoga class, your meditation class. I do not evaluate you by that. What I evaluate you by is, as an observer, is how real are you? If you saying you're going to the store and you're going to get this and this for me and you're going to be back at 3 o'clock, that is in hip-hop called keep it real. So I'm looking at who's the realist. Yeah, if somebody says, well, I have a car and now it can levitate, I say, show me. Okay, back in the day, somebody said, yeah, you know, they would dress like rappers, had the cap on, the gold chain, and they would emulate us being on stage, we're the professionals, and they would be like, yeah, I'm down, and I will be like, okay, next weekend there's an MC battle, see you there. And whoever didn't show up, guess what? Were the critics that had no skill but everything else to say about the craft, but not mastering such. And that is where I say you have no allowance, and you make yourself look ridiculous, and you can't even attain following, and you can't prosper in what you're doing because you're not showing that you are equipped with enough intelligence to make it better. So, but if somebody can say, well, you know, I can beat you anytime, okay, the challenge is on, may the best man win Olympics, you know, nothing heartfelt, and then you would go on stage, and let's say you defeat me in a rap battle, I bow respectfully and say, boy, this is amazing. You said you were going to beat me and you beat me. Respect. Same thing with computer games. That's where also where debunkers have a problem not winning. They get very, very hurt and very, very pissed when they seem to not be successful. And it is in how you see them going at stuff. So yeah, this is what I actually wanted to break down, is when they said about Pumapunku. I saw a debunker video that's years old now, I don't even know the title, where they wanted to debunk, you know, the UFO industry, New Ages, with the city of Pumapunku, by claiming to know what material was found on that mountaintop, with which one of the material was diorite, then sandstone, limestone, different types of minerals were found up there. So what I've seen, that critic that made that video, who has never been to Pumapunku, has zero scientific evidence of anything, just regurgitates and copy-pastes and reads what he thinks is an opinion. So debunking that is not constructive criticism, it is ridiculism, because you have nothing. The people that went to Pumapunku have actually scanned these diorite blocks and figured out that they, like Lego blocks, fit in one another. So let's not talk UFOs and ETs for a minute, for which I don't need to be convinced. I have my own experiencers and families that I talk to. We know they're here, we know it's real, we have experience. So we're past trying to prove that, okay? Even though the consciousness needs time. Let's go back to places like Göbekli Tepe or Baalbek. They found even other new rock formations where I saw like a 15-minute documentary. And do your own research. Don't believe anything that I say. Just see if that makes sense, if there's common sense and the voice of reason in what I'm saying. Also not being aggressive about it. I'm having fun here, you know. Take everything with a grain of salt. Enjoy life, you know. Sometimes, you know, have an organic lemonade and smile, I say, okay? So here is what I find very interesting. They found a block like Baalbek in the Syrian temple that somewhat is an estimate, because you can't really weigh the thing, I have to say to that, where they measured the block and they realized it's 2,000 tons. In the meantime, they have found block formations, like where a block was cut out of a rock, up to 8,000 tons. Okay, you have to put in perspective, without going to extraterrestrials and magic. We have no equipment on this planet as of today to move 8,000 tons that sit in place. And that rock comes from a quarry that's 2,000 miles inland, where nobody knows how did you move it. So in order, and just use your common sense, even if we had 200,000 people pulling ropes, they will not make it in no time. Ropes would snap, and if you go back into where that rock was actually cut, we're supposed to be like 10-20,000 years ago, caveman era. These rocks are cut in 90-degree angles, okay? I'm not an archaeologist, but I use common sense. I know from, I spoke to a stonemason and I looked at stonemasonry. If you have a, let's say, copper chisel, which didn't even exist in that time, and you want to nick the rock and chop it from the top, you will never get a 90-degree angle, because you break off the top as you hit the angle. That's what the mason explained to me. So if you have rocks that are cut with a saw that have to be 20 yards, 30 yards long, we have machinery where I think over 10 yards these industrial saws, if they're not saw bands, will break. So we have no tool to cut. We don't have a saw to cut that rock with. That's as long as these rocks are that were found. Especially diorite is so hard that you break diamond-tipped tools. Our high-tech shit would break. So if it's not laser cut or plasma or some chemical to make a stone soft as cement before it hardens, we have no idea. We try to say that we could rebuild the pyramids, but also have found out that it's not possible to build the pyramid, because all we have is estimates and theory. And they showed how they tried to build a pyramidion, which is the tip, and it fell apart. The geometries, the cuts, everything was perfectly angled and aligned, so they thought, by modern standards and CAD and three-dimensional projections of how these pyramids were built. And it topples, it falls apart, meaning there are monuments that we have found on this planet that we, with our technology, cannot fully decipher nor replicate. So that's where we have to just hold our breath and realize there must have been technology that we don't have today, and leave ourselves open that we must have been higher developed than we are today with what was built there. My theory, my 2 cents are also, now imagine that rock was not only cut by technology, also by a giant. And let's say that giant was 60 foot tall, carried that like a little piece of cardboard boxes, and brought it there and dropped it. Giant dies out. You won't find any bones or anything, even though we have found evidence. Like the biggest hip bone we have found is like 7'2". It's somewhere in Texas in a museum. It's like on display, like a human hip bone, which is anatomically correct, but the chromosomes are much more than we have, and I'll get to it. We have to really rethink and leave ourselves open that we are not the crown and the cream of the crop of creation. There was something before us. It was more powerful. It was more developed, and something must have happened, and we fell from that. So, to derail from that, the debunkers don't have the exact weights, do not have the exact measurements. Same thing with the what they can explain with the Cheops pyramid, call it the Archive of Enoch, is that in the king's chamber, the atmospheric pressure changes. On a quantum physicality, the dimensional aspect in that chamber changes. People that walk into the pyramids halfway in, where there's a certain barrier or ring energetically, get panic attacks, can't make it. So there is a certain level when they come in, that's when their fear kicks in. Nobody knows why that is. I myself climbed into the Saqqara pyramid. I went through that barrier, I felt it. When I walked into this with my mother, she got stuck in the barrier. It's like you can't see it, you have to feel it. She panicked and ran. So I saw the tourists up from where that point is, running upstairs. The guards, the Arabian guys and Arabian folklore says that if you're not pure enough and not integrated enough with the aspects of what make you and what you don't like about you, or what you have accomplished and not accomplished, is called shadow. If you don't have that somewhat in your heart integrated, you can't walk to the center of the pyramid. And that's for anybody that enters that. So the level of purity of a priest was tested by, first of all, you climbing into the pyramid. That will be the test. If you ever go to Egypt, test yourself. And then how many nights can you spend in that king's chamber without losing your mind? Because the Gauss levels are very high in the chamber. The negative ions, which is what I've, kind of, you can say, replicated with the jet here, as a nature energy, is very high, and your body has a response to it. Everything in the king's chamber mummifies, parasites won't stay, rodents run for their life, maggots would crawl out of steak. Charles Bovis has tested that anything parasitical and free radical cannot exist in a higher formation of light, as he called it. So the pyramid is a high-tech monument, which also I can derail into other things here, just giving you a little shortcut. That's what debunkers want to say something about the mysteries of pyramids debunked. It's not a tomb. It wasn't built by Khufu. There's no inscription. There's no proof that the Cheops pyramid were built by Cheops. So also listen to what the ancients say and use your own mind. If you go to the ancients like Pumapunku and ask the older guys and the shamans, what did your forefathers say how this city was built? And they say it was built by the gods. Okay, who are these gods? And then they said, well, they came from the sky according to folklore and myth, and they built it overnight. And in Pumapunku, you see staircases, entire brackets of 200 and 300 tons of one slab turned upside down. It said something happened, like a war or something, where lightning came from the sky and this entire thing was obliterated. In the movie Star Wars, where the city of the Jedis Jedi was shot by the death ray. You saw